Welcome, dear listener. Today, you will hear a story that will touch your heart and teach you something powerful about life. This story is about a boy who worked while others slept. It is not only a story, it is a lesson about time, dreams, and effort. As you listen, you will also learn simple English words and sentences that will help you grow. So, relax. Listen carefully, and imagine the world of this young boy who chose a different path. It was a quiet night. The moon was high, and the world was sleeping. Inside a small house, a little lamp burned softly. Under that lamp sat a boy with tired eyes and strong hope. His hands moved slowly over his books. His mind was full of dreams. While other children were lost in sleep, he was awake, learning, writing, and dreaming about a better life. This boy did not have much. His clothes were simple, his room was small, and his family was poor. But he had something greater. He had a burning desire to change his life. He wanted to help his parents, to be someone his village could be proud of. Every night, when others rested, he worked silently. The sound of turning pages and his pencil on paper were his songs of progress. But life was not easy for him. Sometimes he felt lonely. Sometimes his eyes hurt and his heart felt heavy. He saw his friends laughing, sleeping, and enjoying their free time. They did not worry about tomorrow. They said, "Why work so hard? We have time." But he knew time was not his friend unless he used it wisely. There were moments when he wanted to stop. He thought, "Why am I the only one awake? Why must I fight so hard?" Yet, inside him, a small voice whispered, "Keep going. Your time will come." That voice gave him strength when everything felt difficult. It was the voice of hope. The world outside was dark, but inside his heart, there was light. He believed that one day, this light would shine bright for everyone to see. He believed that every small step, every page he read, every word he wrote, would take him closer to his dream. And maybe you feel the same. Maybe you also have nights when you work while others rest. Maybe you study English while your friends watch TV. Maybe you read when others scroll their phones. This story is for you. It is for everyone who chooses effort over comfort and progress over pleasure. You see, many people want success, but few are ready to work for it. Many dream, but only a few stay awake to make those dreams real. The boy in our story is one of those few. He teaches us that success is not about luck or talent. It is about what you do when no one is watching. As we begin this journey, remember one simple truth. Every great change starts with a small decision. The decision to try, the decision to keep going, the decision to wake up when others sleep. Now, let's go back to the beginning, before the boy became strong, before he found his courage, before he learned the power of hard work. Let's return to the place where everything started, his quiet village, where comfort was easy and dreams were small. Stay with me as we enter the first part of his journey. You will see where he came from, how people around him lived, and why he decided to walk a different path. And remember, this is not only his story, it can also be yours. So listen, learn, and grow with him. If you enjoy learning English through real motivational stories, don't forget to follow this journey until the end. Every word you learn today can change your tomorrow. The Village of Comfort. The boy lived in a small, quiet village, surrounded by green hills and soft winds. The place was peaceful and beautiful, but it was also slow and sleepy. People there did not dream of change. They were happy with what they had, even if it was little. Every morning, the sun rose over the hills and birds sang sweet songs, but the people stayed in bed. They liked their rest. They believed life was simple and should stay that way. Most families in the village lived the same way for years. They woke up late, worked only a few hours, and spent the rest of the day talking, eating, and resting. They said, "Why work hard? The land gives us food. The river gives us water. We have all we need." To them, comfort was more important than progress. Children played in the fields without thinking about tomorrow. Young people sat under trees, dreaming of nothing. Even the elders smiled and said, "Slow life is the best life." They believed hard work was for foolish people. They did not understand that comfort can also be a trap, soft, sweet, and dangerous. But in the middle of this sleepy world lived one boy who felt something different inside him. His name was simple, his clothes were plain, but his heart was full of fire. When he looked around, he saw people smiling but not growing. He saw time passing while nothing changed. And inside his small heart, he felt restless. He wanted more than comfort. He wanted meaning. Sometimes he watched the farmers work slowly in the sun. He wanted to ask, "Why don't you work harder? Why don't you try to make life better?" But he stayed silent. He was only a boy. Yet, in his silence, dreams began to grow. He imagined a different life, one where he could learn new things, travel to new places, and do something great for his family. At night, when everyone went to sleep, he lay awake and looked at the stars. The sky was wide and full of light. He thought, "There must be more beyond this village. There must be something I can do." But when he shared his thoughts with others, they laughed. They said, "You think too much. Life is easy here. Don't make it hard." They did not understand his heart. They thought he was strange because he wanted to learn, to read, and to do more than play or rest. They teased him, calling him the serious boy or the dreamer. Some even said he is wasting his time. Their words hurt him, but they also made him stronger. Each laugh, each joke became a small spark inside his heart, pushing him to prove them wrong. He began to see the truth. The village was full of peace, but also full of fear. Fear of change, fear of failure. People chose the comfort of today instead of the hope of tomorrow. But he did not want to live that way. He wanted to rise, to learn, and to create a life that would make his parents proud. One evening, as the sun went down and the sky turned gold, he sat by the river and thought deeply. The air was quiet, and only the sound of water filled his ears. In that moment, he made a promise to himself. "I will not waste my time," he whispered. "I will not sleep while others sleep. I will wake early. I will learn something new every day. I will work hard until I change my life." That night, he went to bed early, not to rest, but to prepare. He closed his eyes with purpose, not laziness. He knew that the next morning would be the start of something new. The village would still sleep, but he would rise. The world would still be silent, but he would move forward. As the moon climbed high, the boy smiled in the dark. He did not know what the future would bring, but he knew one thing. He was ready to begin. The next morning would be his first step away from comfort and toward his dream. The first morning. The night before his new beginning, the boy could hardly sleep. His heart was full of both fear and hope. he knew that the next morning would be different. For the first time in his life, he planned to rise before the sun. While the rest of the village slept in comfort, he would wake and work toward his dream. When the rooster crowed and the sky was still dark, the boy opened his eyes. His room was cold, and the world outside was silent. The stars were fading, and the first light of morning touched the edge of the hills. His body wanted to stay under the blanket, soft and warm. A voice inside his head whispered, "Sleep more. You worked hard yesterday. You can start tomorrow." For a moment he listened to that voice. His eyelids felt heavy, and his bed felt too kind. But then he remembered his promise, the promise he made by the river. He whispered softly, "No, I said I would start today." With slow movements, he sat up, rubbed his eyes, and stood on the cold floor. The air touched his skin like ice. It was not easy. His body protested, his heart doubted, but his spirit stayed strong. He washed his face with cold water, and it woke him completely. The water felt sharp, but it also gave him energy. He looked into the small mirror on the wall. His reflection was tired but proud. "This is how change begins," he said quietly to himself. Then he lit a small lamp, opened his old notebook, and began to read. The village outside was still asleep. No sound of people, no smell of cooking fires, no noise of laughter, only silence and the soft scratching of his pencil. It was a strange feeling, to be the only one awake while the rest of the world rested. The darkness felt heavy, but he also felt something new, a quiet power growing inside him. As the minutes passed, his mind began to wander. He thought about his friends, still dreaming under their blankets. They would wake late and laugh as always. No one would know that he had been awake for hours. A small part of him felt jealous. Why did he have to struggle while they enjoyed comfort? But then he realized they were still the same as yesterday, and he was changing. That thought filled him with quiet joy. The first rays of sunlight entered through the window. The golden light touched his desk and warmed his hands. He smiled. The hardest part was over. He had fought the voice that told him to quit, and he had won. He had faced the first battle of discipline, the battle between comfort and growth. And he had chosen growth. After finishing his study, he went outside and looked at the sky. The village was now waking up. Smoke began to rise from kitchens, and people greeted the new day with sleepy faces. No one knew what he had done that morning. No one saw the small victory he had achieved. But deep inside, he felt proud, a quiet success, invisible to others, but powerful to him. He walked to the river again, the same place where he had made his promise. The water flowed gently, shining under the morning sun. He took a deep breath and smiled. It was not easy, but he had done it. If I can do it once, he thought, I can do it again. The next morning, he did the same. He woke early, washed his face, and studied. The third morning came, and he repeated it again. Each day was still difficult, but a little easier than before. The cold air no longer scared him. The tired feeling in his body began to fade. His mind became clearer, his heart calmer. Slowly, his new routine became part of him, like breathing. At first, no one noticed, but after some time, people began to wonder. They saw that the boy's eyes were brighter, his words more confident, his thoughts deeper. He was still the same boy, but something inside him had changed. While others were the same every day, he was quietly becoming stronger. Sometimes his friends asked him, "Why do you wake so early? Isn't it boring? Isn't it hard?" He only smiled and said, "It is hard, yes. But I like how I feel afterward." They laughed and said he was strange, but deep inside, some of them began to respect him. The boy didn't need their praise. His reward was simple: the feeling of growth, the joy of keeping a promise to himself. He learned something very important in those early mornings. Growth never feels easy at first. It feels painful, cold, and lonely. But with each small step, the pain becomes strength, and the struggle becomes habit. As days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, the boy's early mornings became his favorite time. The silence no longer felt empty. It felt full of possibility. The dark sky before sunrise was no longer a sign of tiredness. It was the color of his dream taking shape. And so, while others slept peacefully, he worked silently, building a future that no one could yet see. The laughing crowd. As the days passed, the boy's new habit grew stronger. Every morning, before the sun touched the sky, he was awake. While the rest of the village slept, he studied quietly, read small books, and practiced writing. His heart was full of purpose. But when others began to notice his routine, not everyone understood. At first, people were simply curious. They saw his light shining before sunrise and whispered, "Why is he awake so early?" Then curiosity turned into laughter. They called him strange, serious, and even foolish. Some said, "He thinks he is better than us." Others laughed and said, "He is wasting his time. Life is short. Why study when you can enjoy it?" The laughter spread through the village like the wind. Children teased him on the road. Grown men smiled when they saw him carrying his books. Even some of his friends began to joke about his new life. They said, "While we rest, he works. While we laugh, he reads. Poor boy, he doesn't know how to live." The boy heard their words, and each one felt like a small stone thrown at his heart. But he stayed silent. He knew they didn't understand. They had never seen life beyond their comfort. They were happy with what they had, but he was not. He wanted something more, not for pride, but for his family and his future. Sometimes, as he studied alone, he could hear their laughter outside. It hurt. He wanted to be like them, free, happy, without worry. But when he thought about his parents working hard every day, his heart changed. He remembered how his father came home tired from the fields, his hands rough and his face covered with dust. He remembered his mother's gentle voice saying, "One day, my son will have a better life." Those words became his fire. So, while others spent their time talking, he worked in silence. When his friends played games in the sun, he practiced his lessons. When they napped in the shade, he read another page. He wanted to stop sometimes, to rest like them, but he knew if he gave up once, it would be easier to give up again. The people of the village continued their easy lives. They enjoyed the moment, sleeping late, laughing loudly, wasting hours. Their days were light and fun, but their dreams stayed small. The boy's days were hard and quiet, but his dreams grew strong. One evening, he walked through the village and heard a group of boys laughing together. They saw him and shouted, "Hey! Why don't you join us? Why do you always study? Don't you get bored?" He smiled kindly and said, "I am not bored. I am building something." The boys laughed even louder. "Building what?" they said. You have no money, no power, no chance. He didn't answer. He just walked away. Their words followed him like echoes in the night. No money, no power, no chance. For a moment, he felt weak. He sat under a tree and looked up at the stars. The same stars he saw every night now looked far away. Maybe they are right, he thought. Maybe I am foolish to work so hard. A soft wind touched his face, and he remembered his father again, the man who never stopped working, even when life was unfair. He thought about his mother, who smiled even when she had little food to eat. No, he whispered to himself, I cannot stop. I must keep going for them. The next morning, he woke up even earlier than before. He felt lonely, but his heart was clear. He had learned something important. People may laugh at what they do not understand. They may not see your dream, but that doesn't mean your dream is wrong. As the days turned into weeks, the laughter did not stop, but the boy learned to live with it. It no longer hurt him as much. Every laugh became a reminder that he was different, and that being different was not bad. While they wasted their mornings, he built his strength. While they talked about others, he talked with his future. There were moments when he looked at the happy faces around him and felt envy. They seemed so free, so careless. But he also noticed something else. Their eyes held no direction. They were happy for a moment, but their joy disappeared quickly. His own joy was smaller, quieter, but it lasted longer. It came from progress, from learning, from keeping his promise. At night, when he finished his study, he sometimes looked at the dark village and thought, one day, these same people will understand. He didn't say it with pride, but with hope. He wanted to show them that hard work could change a person's life. He wanted to make his family proud and bring honor to their name. So, he continued. Every day, he woke up before the sun. Every day, he studied in silence. And every day, he moved one small step closer to his dream, even if no one else believed in it. The laughter around him still echoed, but now it sounded distant, like noise from another world. He had found peace in his purpose. And though he often felt lonely, that loneliness was also his strength, the space where dreams had room to grow. Little by little, his focus began to change him. His face looked calmer, his eyes looked wiser. People didn't know it yet, but something was happening quietly. The boy who worked while others laughed was slowly becoming someone new. The long night of doubt. One night, the boy sat alone at his small wooden desk. The lamp flickered softly, its weak light dancing on the pages of his old book. Outside, the world was silent. Everyone in the village was asleep. The only sound was the wind moving through the trees and the slow beating of his tired heart. He had been studying for hours, but nothing seemed to stay in his mind. The letters blurred together. The numbers made no sense. His head felt heavy, and his eyes burned from exhaustion. He closed the book and placed his hands on his face. For the first time in many weeks, he felt truly tired, not just in body, but in spirit. He whispered to himself, "Why am I doing this? Why am I working so hard?" The room didn't answer. The silence around him felt heavier than ever. He looked at his books and papers. They were filled with notes, yet his life still looked the same. His house was still small, his clothes still old, his dreams still far away. He thought about his friends who laughed and rested every day. They seemed happy, free from worry. They didn't wake early or stay up late, yet they smiled easily. He thought about the villagers who called him foolish for working so hard. For a moment, their voices returned to his mind, echoing like ghosts. "You're wasting your time." The boy's heart sank. Maybe they are right, he thought. Maybe I am wasting my time. I have worked for so long, but nothing has changed. His eyes filled with tears. He felt the pain of disappointment, the pain that comes when your effort feels invisible. He stood up and walked to the window. The night was deep and endless. The stars above seemed far away, too bright for someone like him. He whispered, "Maybe I'm not meant to succeed. Maybe I should stop." In that moment, he imagined what it would be like to give up, to sleep like everyone else, to rest, to stop trying so hard. It seemed easy, almost peaceful. No more lonely mornings, no more tired nights, just quiet comfort. The idea tempted him like a soft blanket after a long day. But then, something inside him resisted. A small, quiet memory began to rise, the sound of his father's voice. He remembered a night long ago when his father came home late from the fields. The boy had asked, "Father, why do you work so much?" His father smiled and said, "Because life only gives to those who don't stop asking." Those words came back to him now, stronger than ever. Life only gives to those who don't stop asking. The boy took a deep breath. His tears slowed. He looked again at his books. The same pages that moments ago felt heavy now looked like open doors. He sat back down slowly, feeling the wooden chair under him. "Maybe I can't see my progress," he said softly. "But that doesn't mean it's not there." He opened his notebook again and began to write. Slowly, gently, word by word. The lamp's light grew steadier, and so did his heart. He reminded himself of something he had read once. A tree grows quietly underground before it shows its leaves. He smiled a little. Maybe he was like that tree. Maybe his roots were growing deep in the dark, preparing for the day when he would finally rise toward the sun. The thought warmed him. He picked up his pencil again. Every line he wrote felt like a small step forward, no matter how slow. The world outside was still asleep, but inside that tiny room, something had changed. The darkness no longer felt like an enemy. It felt like a teacher. He realized that growth is not always visible. Sometimes it happens in silence, in struggle, in pain. He understood that every long night of doubt carries a quiet lesson. The hardest time often comes just before change. The boy looked at the lamp and whispered, "I won't stop." It was a simple sentence, but it held great power. He didn't need to shout it to the world. Saying it to himself was enough. As the night slowly passed, the first light of dawn appeared. The darkness began to fade, and the boy's tired eyes softened with relief. He had survived his hardest night, not because it was easy, but because he refused to give up. When the sun rose over the hills, its warm light filled his room. He stood by the window and smiled faintly. "Thank you," he whispered to the sky, not to anyone in particular, but to life itself. He knew that the next day would bring new challenges, but he also knew he would face them with stronger faith. He picked up his book again, ready to begin once more. The night of doubt had not defeated him. It had shaped him. It had taught him that strength is not built in comfort. It is built in moments when you feel like giving up and still choose to continue. And as the new day began, The boy's heart carried one quiet truth. The fire that almost went out can still burn brighter than before. The turning point. The morning after that long, dark night felt different. The boy woke up before the sun again, but this time, something inside him had changed. He no longer moved like a tired dreamer chasing something far away. He moved with quiet purpose. The doubt was still there, but now it was weaker. His heart was stronger. He remembered what he had told himself. Don't stop, just grow smarter. Those words became his new rule. He realized that working hard was important, but working with direction was even more powerful. So, he decided to change the way he lived, not just the hours he worked. First, he made a simple plan. He divided his day into small parts: morning for learning, afternoon for helping his family, evening for reviewing what he had studied. He stopped wasting time trying to do everything at once. Instead, he focused on one thing at a time, giving his full attention to each task. He also learned to rest better. Before, he believed that sleeping less meant working harder, but now he understood that rest gave him energy to keep going. So, he allowed himself short breaks, small walks outside, and moments to breathe. It was not laziness. It was balance. Each day, his work became smoother. When he studied, he wrote clearly. When he read, he tried to understand, not just memorize. When he made mistakes, he didn't get angry anymore. He corrected them patiently. Slowly, things started to change. One morning, while practicing reading, he realized something surprising. He understood a full page without stopping. It was the first time that had ever happened. He smiled to himself. It was a small victory, but it felt like sunlight breaking through clouds. That small success gave him new motivation. He began to notice more progress. He could solve problems faster, remember lessons longer, and think more clearly. His hands, once shaky from exhaustion, now moved with confidence. His heart, once full of doubt, now carried quiet strength. He started keeping a small notebook of progress. Every night before bed, he wrote one line about what he had learned or improved that day. Some days, the line was simple: I finished my reading. Other days, it was deep. I didn't give up, even when it was hard. These notes became his secret treasure. When he felt tired, he read them again and remembered how far he had come. As weeks passed, people in the village began to notice him. When they walked past his house early in the morning, they could see the faint glow of his lamp. They started whispering, "That boy is still studying? Every day?" At first, they said it with laughter, but slowly, the laughter changed to curiosity. One of the men who used to mock him stopped him one afternoon. "You never rest, do you?" the man asked. The boy smiled and said softly, "I rest when I grow." The man didn't understand at first, but he nodded slowly and walked away, thinking about the boy's words. The boy's results also began to show in real life. He fixed things faster, helped his neighbors better, and spoke with more confidence. When people came to him for help, he shared his knowledge without pride. His kindness made others respect him even more. One day, a teacher from another village visited and saw the boy's notes. The teacher said, "These are very good. You have real discipline." The boy felt shy but proud. For the first time, someone outside his village noticed his effort. It felt like a small door opening to a larger world. That night, As he sat again under the same lamp that once saw his tears, he smiled quietly. "It was all worth it," he whispered. "The pain, the loneliness, the doubt, all of it had been part of the path." He now understood that success doesn't come from just working hard. It comes from working with a clear mind, a calm heart, and a steady plan. He realized something else too. The road of improvement is not straight. It moves in circles, climbs hills, and sometimes goes backward. But as long as he kept walking, he would never truly be lost. As he looked at the moon outside, he thought of his past self, the boy who almost gave up. He wished he could tell that boy, "You were closer than you thought." That night, he slept peacefully for the first time in many months. Not because his work was over, but because he finally understood its meaning. The next morning, he woke again before sunrise. The sky was painted with soft colors of orange and pink. As he opened his notebook and began his day, he felt something new, a quiet confidence. His path was clearer now, his spirit lighter. He was no longer just the boy who worked while others slept. He was the boy who worked with purpose, with faith, and with a dream that was slowly becoming real. And as others began to see his quiet transformation, the world around him started to change too. Not because the village had changed, but because he had. The change in the air. The village was still the same dusty roads, the same quiet mornings, the same gentle wind moving through the trees. But something in the air felt different. People had started to notice the boy who once worked silently in the corner of the world. The same people who laughed before were now watching more closely. At first, they noticed small things. When someone needed help fixing a tool, the boy always knew what to do. When a child struggled with reading, he offered to teach them. His hands moved with care, his words were simple, and his voice carried calm confidence. He never showed off. He just helped, and people began to see that he was not the same as before. Then came the day of the village fair, a time when everyone gathered to sell food, share stories, and take part in friendly competitions. The boy joined a small contest about solving problems and writing simple ideas clearly. Many didn't expect much from him. They still remembered the shy boy who once stayed alone, studying while others played. But that day, something surprised everyone. When it was his turn, the boy stood straight, his heart calm. His answers were clear, short, and full of understanding. He didn't rush or panic. When the final results were read, his name was called first. He had won. The crowd fell silent for a moment, then applause began to rise, soft at first, then stronger. The same people who had once laughed now clapped for him. His mother watched with tears in her eyes. She remembered the long nights when she would quietly open his door and see him still awake, a single candle lighting his face. She used to worry that he was pushing himself too hard, but now she saw what those nights had built: strength, focus, and quiet pride. From that day on, the way people spoke about him began to change. The older men said, "That boy has discipline." The younger ones whispered, "Maybe he was right all along." Even those who once mocked him began to feel a small spark inside, the feeling that maybe they too could do something more with their lives. The boy did not let the praise distract him. He knew that one success did not mean the journey was over. He still woke before sunrise. He still studied when the village slept. But now, his heart carried more peace. He was no longer working only to prove others wrong. He was working because he loved to learn, to grow, to build his future. One afternoon, as he sat near the river reading an old book, an older man approached him. It was a teacher from a nearby town who had come to visit the fair. The teacher had heard about the boy's victory and wanted to meet him. "You study every day?" the teacher asked with curiosity. The boy nodded. "Yes, sir. I try to learn something new before the sun rises." The teacher smiled. "That's rare. Most people sleep when they could be growing. You remind me of my younger self." The teacher sat beside him and listened to the boy's story about the mornings, the laughter, the doubt, and the small victories. When the boy finished, the teacher looked at him kindly and said, "You have what many don't: consistency. Would you like to study with me? I could teach you more, help you go further." The boy's eyes widened. His heart beat faster. He had dreamed of learning from someone wiser, someone who could guide him. This was the chance he had been waiting for. The door that only opens after long patience and unseen effort. He thanked the teacher with deep respect. That night, as he lay in bed, he couldn't sleep, not because of worry, but because of excitement. He remembered all those mornings when he wanted to quit, all those nights when he felt alone. Now he understood. Every moment of pain had a purpose. Every small effort had built this opportunity. The air in the village seemed lighter now. People spoke with more hope. Some even began waking earlier, inspired by his story. The boy had not tried to change them, but by changing himself, he had changed the air around him. As the moon rose, he stood outside his home, looking at the sky. "It's only the beginning," he whispered to himself. His dream was no longer just about escaping poverty or proving his worth. It was about growth, for himself and for others. The boy smiled softly, his heart full of quiet fire. He didn't know exactly what would come next, but he was ready. The teacher's offer was the next step on his long road. He had worked while others slept, and now the world was starting to wake up to his light. The golden opportunity. One morning, the teacher from the neighboring town brought exciting news. A scholarship had been announced for young students with talent and dedication. It was rare, highly competitive, and would change a life completely. The boy listened carefully, his heart beating fast. This was the chance he had been waiting for, a door that could take him far beyond the small village, beyond the quiet mornings, beyond everything he had ever known. At first, a wave of nervousness filled him. "Am I ready?" he whispered to himself. The thought of facing so many talented students from other towns made his stomach twist. For weeks, he had studied alone, prepared quietly, and worked while others rested. Could that small effort truly measure up to so many others? He remembered the nights when he had wanted to give up, the long hours of study, the cold mornings, the laughter of those who did not understand. Each memory returned vividly. But instead of fear, they now brought strength. He realized that every page he read, every small success, and even every tear had prepared him for this moment. He had practiced patience, discipline, and focus when no one watched. Now, those quiet lessons would speak louder than words. The day of the scholarship test arrived. The boy walked to the large hall, surrounded by students he had never seen before. Some wore new clothes, some had books full of notes, and some spoke confidently, ready to show their talent. He felt small in comparison, but he held his head high and remembered what he had learned over the months. Confidence comes from preparation, not comparison. Inside the hall, the questions were difficult. Many students hesitated, unsure of how to begin. Some complained and whispered to friends, but the boy remained calm. He worked steadily, carefully thinking about every answer. His hands moved with certainty, his mind sharp from years of practice, and his heart focused on the task. During the test, he felt a brief pang of fear. "What if I fail?" he thought. But he immediately pushed the thought away. Fear could not guide him. Only effort and preparation could. He reminded himself, "I have studied when others slept. I have worked when others rested. I am ready." Hours passed. The test was long and exhausting, but the boy never gave up. He reviewed his answers, corrected mistakes, and stayed focused until the very last minute. When he finally placed his pen down, a strange feeling came over him, a mix of relief, exhaustion, and quiet pride. Outside the hall, he looked at the other students. Many smiled nervously, some sighed in frustration, some were talented, but they lacked the discipline and preparation that he had built in silence. He realized then a powerful truth. Opportunities are given not to those who wish, but to those who are ready. Dreamers may hope, but only prepared workers can seize the moment. Days later, the results were announced. The boy's name was at the top of the list. He had won the scholarship. The news spread quickly to his village. The same people who once laughed at him now looked with respect, some even with admiration. Yet the boy felt no pride in their praise. He remembered the long nights, the cold mornings, the mistakes, and the tears. He knew that the real reward was not recognition, but the growth he had achieved. When he packed his small bag for the journey to the town where he would study, he paused and looked around his home. The fields, the quiet streets, the small lamp by his desk. All of it had shaped him. Every moment of effort, every ounce of patience had prepared him for this golden opportunity. He thought about his family, who had supported him quietly, even when they didn't fully understand. He thought about the teacher who had guided him and believed in him when others mocked him. And he thought about himself, the boy who once sat awake alone, wondering if all his work meant anything. As he left the village, he carried with him more than books and notes. He carried lessons of humility, patience, and effort. He knew that success was not an ending, but a step in a long journey. Winning the scholarship was important, but what mattered more was the person he had become, disciplined, focused, and ready to face challenges that others might avoid. The boy smiled as the village disappeared behind him. He knew life would still have tests, difficulties, and moments of doubt. But he also knew that he had learned the most important lesson. Opportunity comes to those who prepare in silence, who work when no one watches, and who never stop believing in the value of their effort. And as the road ahead stretched into the unknown, the boy felt a quiet joy. He had succeeded, but he also remembered the long nights, the laughter, and the struggles that had shaped him. That memory would keep him grounded, humble, and ready for every challenge to come. The boy who worked while others slept. Years had passed since the boy first decided to wake before sunrise. The small lamp in his room, once a symbol of struggle, had guided him through countless nights of learning, practice, and quiet effort. Now, he was no longer just the boy of the village. He was a young man with confidence, knowledge, and respect. People in the village had changed how they saw him. Those who once laughed now spoke with admiration. "He is different," they said softly. "He is strong and wise. He has built something with his own hands." The boy had become a symbol of what consistent effort could achieve. Children looked up to him, and adults consulted him for advice. Yet he remained humble. He never forgot the nights when he felt alone, the mornings when the cold air bit his skin, or the long hours when progress seemed invisible. He remembered the first mornings, how his body wanted to rest, how his mind begged him to sleep, how the laughter of others made him question himself. Those moments were painful, yet necessary. They had taught him endurance, patience, and belief in himself. He had learned to trust the invisible progress of silent effort. Now, his days were bright and busy. But the lessons of those quiet nights stayed with him. He worked hard, but with balance and purpose. He helped others not for praise, but because he understood the value of giving. His knowledge had grown, and his confidence had grown even more. The boy who once felt small in a sleepy village now stood tall, not just in skill, but in character. He often reflected on the journey that had brought him here. From mockery to admiration, from doubt to certainty, from loneliness to quiet pride, every step mattered. He saw clearly the contrast between those who had chosen comfort and those who had chosen growth. While others slept, he worked. While they rested, he grew. The village had once been his world, but now his world was much larger, filled with opportunities, challenges, and dreams that reached beyond the hills he had once known. The transformation was not sudden, and it was not easy. It was built on countless small decisions. The decision to wake early, to read another page, to correct mistakes, to continue when giving up seemed simpler. Each choice, repeated day after day, had created a life he could be proud of. Consistent effort, he realized, creates miracles. What seems impossible in a single day becomes inevitable in time. He smiled as he remembered the long nights of doubt. The tears, the fear, and the loneliness had not been signs of failure, but of growth. They had been the furnace that strengthened his spirit. Every small victory, every lesson learned in silence, had built the foundation for this moment. And yet, he did not see his success as an end. He knew life would continue to test him. There would always be new challenges, more knowledge to gain, and higher mountains to climb. But he also knew that the habit of effort, the discipline he had cultivated, and the patience he had learned would carry him forward. He could face anything because he had faced the hardest battles in his own mind first. Looking at the villagers now, he understood another truth. People will not always understand your journey. Some will laugh, some will doubt, and some will even discourage you. But their opinions do not define you. What defines you is the work you do when no one is watching, the choices you make when the world sleeps, and the faith you hold in yourself even in the darkest hours. The boy, now a man, hoped that others would learn from his path. He wanted the children in the village to know that small, consistent steps could lead to great change. He wanted those who felt weak or overlooked to remember that their effort matters, even if it feels invisible. Dreams are not built in comfort. They are built in persistence, in courage, and in the decision to keep going when giving up seems easier. And so, as the sun rose over the hills, he stood quietly on the path outside his house. The wind carried the scent of the fields and the songs of the village. He took a deep breath, feeling grateful for every struggle, every night, every lonely hour. He had become proof that effort never betrays those who choose it. While they slept, he had worked. While they rested, he had grown. And in that quiet truth, the boy who once doubted himself had found the life he had always dreamed of, full of learning, respect, and the joy of seeing dreams turn into reality. The lesson for you. Now listen carefully. This story is not just about a boy in a small village, it is also about you. Think of the boy who worked while others slept. His success was not magic. It was not luck. It was the result of small choices made every day, every early morning, every page read, every moment spent learning. These were the bricks that built his future. Ask yourself, what are you doing with your time? Are you spending it in comfort, scrolling on your phone, or waiting for someone to give you success? Or are you using it to grow, even a little each day? The choice is yours. Every day offers hours that can be wasted or invested. The boy chose to invest, and because of that, his life changed. You can do the same. You do not need a special opportunity, a large room, or money. What you need is focus, effort, and patience. Start small. Read one page of a book today. Learn 5 new English words. Practice speaking slowly for 10 minutes. These small steps may seem tiny now, but repeated daily, they grow into enormous strength. Think of the contrast. Wasting time feels comfortable. It feels safe. You laugh, you relax, you escape from effort. But what does it give you in the long run? Comfort today often becomes regret tomorrow. On the other hand, using your time wisely may feel hard at first. Early mornings, long hours of study, quiet work while others play. It can be painful, tiring, and lonely. But in return, it builds confidence, skill, and opportunity. You will see results you cannot imagine at first. Like the boy, you will face doubt. You will feel tired. You may want to stop. People around you may laugh or question why you work so hard. That is normal. Remember, they cannot see the invisible progress inside you. Their laughter is not the measure of your effort. The true value of your work will appear only with time. Create habits that make you stronger. Read every day, even if it is short. Practice English, even if you make mistakes. Control your time, even if the world distracts you. Small steps, repeated consistently, are stronger than bursts of effort followed by rest. The boy did not succeed in one night. He succeeded after weeks, months, and years of quiet work. You can do the same in your own life. Remember the lessons from the boy's journey. Discipline is more valuable than talent. Effort is more powerful than luck. Consistency is the bridge between dreams and reality. Every moment counts. Every choice matters. When you choose to work while others rest, to learn while others waste time, to push yourself while others quit, you are planting the seeds of your own future. Think about your dreams. Maybe you want to speak English fluently. Maybe you want to pass an exam. Maybe you want a better life for yourself and your family. Whatever your goal is, the steps are the same. Use your time. Learn a little each day. Keep going, even when it is hard. The boy's story shows that small effort, repeated daily, can overcome fear, doubt, and the comfort of laziness. And here is the most important truth. The change starts with you. No one can make you rise early. No one can force you to read, to practice, or to grow. You have the power inside yourself to make these choices. And the more you act, the stronger you become. Every day you follow this path. You move closer to your dream. Every morning you wake before the distractions. You gain more than just time. You gain strength, confidence, and belief in yourself. While others sleep, you grow. While others rest, you prepare for opportunities that will come. Your small, consistent efforts will build a life you once only imagined. So, take this story into your heart. Let it guide your choices. Let it remind you that effort matters, that patience matters, and that your future depends on what you do today. Start now. Begin small. Take one step, then another. Every day counts. Every choice counts. Your life can change. You can grow stronger. You can achieve your dreams. The boy in the village did it, and so can you. All it takes is courage, effort, and the decision to act while others wait. The light in the night. Imagine a quiet night. The village sleeps. The streets are empty. The wind moves softly through the trees. The world seems still, peaceful, and calm. And yet, in one small house, a single lamp glows. Its light flickers gently, cutting through the darkness. That light belongs to the boy who once worked while others slept. Now a young man, steady, focused, and full of quiet power. This light is more than just a lamp. It is a symbol. It is hope in the dark, discipline in action, and faith in the future. It represents every early morning, every late night, every page read, every mistake corrected, and every effort made in silence. It shows that success is not about talent alone, nor about luck or comfort. True success comes from consistent effort, even when no one is watching. The man sits at his desk, pen in hand, reading and writing. He has learned much, achieved much, and yet he continues. His heart knows that the journey is never finished. There will always be more to learn, more to practice, more to improve, and still he does not complain. He does not seek attention. He simply works, quietly, consistently, faithfully. Outside, the village continues its sleep. The streets are quiet. The people rest, unaware of the work happening in the small room. Some may not understand why he continues, why he sacrifices comfort for growth, why he chooses effort over ease. But the light reminds us that understanding is not necessary. The value of work is in the doing, not the approval of others. As English learners, you can see yourself in this light. Every word you learn, every sentence you practice, every day you study consistently. It is your lamp in the dark. Even when progress feels slow, even when others seem to move faster, even when your efforts are invisible, they are not wasted. Your small, repeated actions will build the skills, confidence, and opportunities you seek. Think of the contrast. Most of the world sleeps, comfortable, distracted, or lazy. A few choose to rise before the sun, to read, to learn, to practice, to grow. Those who rise early do not always see instant results. Sometimes their nights are long and lonely. Sometimes progress feels invisible. But the light they create in the darkness grows stronger over time, and it guides them towards success that others can only dream of. The young man looks at the lamp and smiles. He remembers the first morning when the cold air burned his face and his body begged him to rest. He remembers the laughter of the village, the nights of doubt, the small victories that seemed invisible at the time. Each moment was a step, each struggle a lesson, each effort a seed. And now the seeds have grown into a tree of strength, wisdom, and opportunity. You, too, can be this light in the night. You may feel small, unseen, or discouraged at times. You may think your effort is invisible, but every word you study, every sentence you practice, every habit you build quietly adds strength to your mind and heart. Like the boy's lamp, your effort will shine in time, guiding you toward your dreams. Remember the truth. Success is not about talent. It is about what you do consistently when no one is watching. Talent is limited, luck is uncertain, and comfort is temporary. But effort, patience, and faith in yourself are unlimited. They will carry you further than you imagine. So, rise early, read, write, speak, practice English daily, build small habits, correct your mistakes, learn from every challenge. Do it when the world sleeps. Do it when no one notices. Do it when it is hard. Your consistent work is your lamp. Your discipline is your fire. Your faith is your path. The boy who once struggled in the village is now a man, but his lamp still burns, and you can be like him. You can choose to shine in the dark, to grow while others rest, to prepare while others wait. Your time will come. Your effort will be rewarded. Your life can change. Thank you for listening, for learning, and for taking one small step today. Every day you practice English. Every day you work quietly on your dreams. You are building your future. Keep going, even when it is hard. Be the person who works while others sleep. And one day, the light you create will guide not only your own path, but inspire others to rise as well.